America, my name is Osei-Frimpong. Let me tell you, David Hogg's out there trying to do the Lord's work, and I do not agree with that young man on everything, but he is just saying that the biggest problem with Democrats right now might be other Democrats who treat the party like a social club. To beat the other social club, to turn U.S. politics into the Harvard-Yale game or the Stanford-Berkeley game or the Michigan State game, whatever. They just treat it like a rivalry, and your job of one team is to beat the other team, whereas it's a political party, not a particular social club, which means the job is to figure out a way to realize the vision of the people into a whole coherent framework that can governing framework, right? Which is different than a different particularization of realizing the coherent ideas of the people into a governing framework, right? So it's a fundamentally different mission. It's not just my team versus your team. The purpose of this team is to figure out a vision, a coherent vision of the people, right? And if you're not doing that, then you're turning politics into just what you happen to like and where you happen to be versus the other people who happen to be someplace else. So the Democratic Party can't just be about beating Republicans. It has to be about beating Republicans by actually modeling a quality of self-determination, popular self-determination, and realizing the coherent vision of the people. And that doesn't mean just paying off the people. We can't be the party who pays off its electorates to beat the other party that pays off its electorate. And so everyone's just vying for the party that will get them their goodies. Instead, the Democratic Party has to be the party that realizes the conditions of self-determination, right? That fights for internal primaries because that's the way you get the voice of the people to be realized and expressed through the policies of the party, right? So internal primaries are actually a good thing. And unfortunately, and maybe unconsciously, the Republican Party is better at this, right? There are multiple different Republican people in the Republican Party, and they all have the same standing, right? You got the Steve Bannons and the Elon Musks and the Mitt Romneys. All three of them, they do not agree on too much. They do not agree on everything, but they each have a power base within the party, and they can openly disagree. Within the Democratic Party, you're not allowed to openly disagree because it's uncivil. It's uncivil. People think it's gauche. It's cruel. You can't openly disagree. And so they will just silence you. And if they're in a position of power, shut you up, which is why the elite Democratic Party are the enemy. The purpose of, if you really want to save the Democratic Party, you need to take out the elites of the Democratic Party who think of the Democratic Party as a social club rather than a political party that's supposed to work out the vision of the whole nation, right? If you think it's just a social club that gives goodies that to people that they like, you're not serious about self-governance. You're not serious about self-governance. The rigorous debate is happening on the other side of the aisle. The Democrats don't want a rigorous debate because it's cruel. It might hurt people's feelings. It'll end in someone's tears. And you know what? Especially young guys are just walking away from that because at least they can go and openly disagree at the Republican Party. You're not allowed to openly disagree within the Democratic Party because it's cruel, and nobody wants to be policed by that kind of nagging, right? So we need to be the party. We, as in Democrats, black people are kind of shoehorned into being Democrats because it's the not white nationalist party. So like we, when I say we, I mean we Democrats. Unfortunately, I'm shoehorned into being a Democrat. Need to make the party a party of self-governance, not a party of giving away goodies, government goodies, for the sake of giving away government goodies, but actually trying to frame arguments in terms of realizing freedom within the people, and the voice of the people, right? So we need to encourage internal primaries. Make debates internally mandatory, even at the local party level. Make internal debates mandatory, and contested debates where people actually have to put forth a vision of the whole and where this gets worked out. And so we make a Democratic Party that's attractive enough so people vote for us. A Democratic Party where people have buy-in because they had their say. You can't have your say in the Democratic Party right now because it might be considered rude. It might be considered rude. It's not appropriately feminist. You might get canceled. At least Republicans can have their say. There are a lot of Republicans right now who are only Republicans because the party lets them have their say. And even if they hate Trump, they're not going to vote for Democrats because at least in the Republican Party, they can have their say. Right? And I've said before, like I've been canceled multiple times from going on NPR. I'll get booked and then I'll get an email a day or two before saying I'm unbooked. Whereas Fox News, if I get booked, I go on. I don't agree with any of them. I don't have to agree. They don't expect me to agree, but they're there for the debate. They're the solicitous of the debate. And so the party of internal like power and free speech is the Republican Party, but it doesn't have to be that way. But the elite Democrats have to get over this idea that, one, the purpose of the party is to beat Republicans. The purpose of the party is to realize the vision of the people. And they have to get over the idea that the best way to beat Republicans is by stifling the debate within the party so that people just quiet quit the Democratic Party. They quiet quit the Democratic Party. Because nobody wants to be in a party where they can't talk. They can't actually talk. They can't actually make the argument, or the argument's disregarded because it hurts someone's feelings. Nobody wants to be in that party. Maybe some people do want to be in that party, but a lot of people don't. And so that's where we are. That's where we are. So David Hogg is trying to save the Democratic Party from itself by calling for real primaries. And James Carville says no, that'll fracture the Democratic Party. We need to worry about beating Republicans. And that's just not true. One, it won't fracture the Democratic Party. It'll actually make it more robust, just in the same way that having the Musk wing, the Bannon wing, and the Mitt Romney wing makes the GOP more robust. And two, the purpose of the party isn't to beat the Republicans. The purpose of the party is to formulate a vision of a united America, a whole coherent, ideological coherent vision of America, and then put that forth against a different particular coherent vision of America, right? And so in order to do that, you need to work out what that vision is, not just assume that if you give enough goodies to enough of your friends that everyone should be happy. But you need to actually account for how your vision of America empowers, and that means allows for freedom of all sorts of other people to, be in America, to work and move in America, to have the families, to have the civil society, and have the politics which kind of governs the parameters of what kind of families and civil society that we have in the United States, right? So the party that embraces the debate is going to be the party that wins young men back. The idea that Democratic Party loses young men is absurd. As if the problem is young men who just don't want to be shushed all the time. As if that's the problem with the Democratic Party. All right. So if you appreciate what I'm doing, which I think you should, you need to go to www.funkyacademic.com, kick in $5, $15, or $50 a month, and I'll keep, giving shows. And I'll be honest, the more money you give, the more shows I'll do, because it'll incentivize me to give you a quality of wisdom that allow you not to squander not just your vote, but your life. I do not want you to squander either of those. And thank you for your time and attention. And let's help David Hogg help David Hogg resuscitate the Democratic Party, because it's not like he's their only hope. He's just a regular guy, but he's just a regular guy who wants to be a Democrat, but actually wants a lot of people to have say in Democrat. He's being inclusive. That's how you rebrand this. David Hogg has an inclusive strategy for the Democratic Party, as opposed to the elite and exclusive strategy of party elites. Right? So David Hogg's inclusive Democratic Party should win the debate and win the day, according to myself. All right. Thank you for your time. Peace.